Good morning, and welcome to another episode of Diatribes from the Voice of Doom. And now here's your host, the Voice of Doom. All right. Thank you, Mr. Announcer. You sound pretty chipper today. Forgot something again. I don't know if I'm obsessed with the hat, but I just don't like that bald spot. Really is irritating. So another episode, and I'm going to talk more about what I was talking about before, the interpersonal interactions and the weirdness that comes with having death in the house, basically. But yeah, I changed my look a little bit. Again, I'll show you a little bit. It's like I'm going to pose, but, maybe I am going to pose, but I'll show you. It's like, I think I would have made a good Indian, and like from India, Indian, not the old baseball players from Cleveland, but the trouble is I'd probably be the only person in the country eating a Whopper. It's like, that's very bad, very bad. It's like, to hell with your sacred cows. But anyway, no, America's good. I like America. Very, very, very good country. I'm not going to say proud, but it's a great country. All right, now, kind of time gets kind of in a homogenized sense, like you don't really know what day it is sometimes unless you have to work. And everything's the same thing day after day. Wake up, go and make sure she's alive, hope that she's alive but not awake, because you don't want to start the day off right this second. You'd rather maybe make a pot of coffee or whatever else, relax with, a paper, I don't know, but just not have to start immediately when you wake up and open your eyes. And the thing about it is, talking of kind of logistics again, but not really, you're doing stuff and you're doing a lot of paperwork, and there's always a lot of deadlines. It seems like they always want something faxed by the end of the business day today, otherwise you're going to not be able to blah blah blah. So it's always running around, and for some reason, like I said, the universal forces or God or whoever is controlling, or just not chance, but cause and effect itself is helping you to get that deadline done, no matter how impossible it seems. That you're going to, probably get it done if you're acting with sincerity. But you're doing a lot, and you're doing so much, and then suddenly it's kind of done as far as the bureaucracy and the paperwork. It's like you checked off the last thing you have to do. You've gotten your notice back saying, yes, you've been approved for yeah. And then it's like, I don't have to do bureaucratic stuff anymore. All I have to do is take care of her, and which is becoming more and more like I need to do that all the time anyway. So it's good, But it leaves a void because you're going at a certain pace, and everything has to be filled up. Every minute of the day that you're awake has to be doing something. It's not like, and even when I have downtime, I want to write because I'm more productive under pressure than I am when I'm relaxed. And I'll get to that later, because that's really something people have to think about, especially me. But the point is suddenly you have more, not free time, but you don't have to worry about the bureaucracy. It's kind of a load off your mind, because it's a lot of paperwork that, okay, it's finally done. I don't have to fill out any more forms or find any more W-2 forms or find any more, pay stubs from 2 years ago. So you start thinking about how you're going to keep busy, and here's where I have to give some advice, because I thought about it long before I did anything. And that is, I should kind of do something about the house. It's in disarray, and there's some odds and ends here, and maybe we can save money if we do this or do that. And then I have to be very careful because even though deep in my heart I think she's going to go from the bed to the bathroom, and that's going to be her life for quite a while. And if anything miraculous happens, then I'll deal with the fallout. But you're thinking things like, she's leasing a car that she's not driving, and I'm not going to be able to keep up with the payments. And so you're toying with the idea of, having the car taken away. And then I'm thinking, no, because if she gets up or looks out the window and sees that her car is gone, nobody else drives it, it will be like a stab in the chest, because it's like they're just divesting themselves of me already. And that's another thing, you can't really talk about your future plans as far as, let's say, final wishes, or, because you might be within earshot. And then, if I was laying in bed and I'm getting worse and worse every day, I don't think I'd want to hear people in the other room talking about, well, do you think you'd want a memorial? Or, so you have to kind of watch what you're doing. I didn't even talk about that. There's times when silence is golden. And I'll tell you about some of those times when silence is golden. But even the thought of reorganizing the house or cleaning the house really well is a tricky thing when you think about it, because Carla was, or is, a woman that kind of ruled the roost with an iron fist. Mussolini would have been frightened. And we would not be able to function without her. And that's the way she wanted it. She knew that we would just fall apart if she wasn't there, and that her ranting and raving is all in, out of love. And nothing's really good, and if she can't yell at us, she yells at the pets, and it's always screaming, and it's always, I'm mad, or I'm frustrated. It's always like that. But we couldn't get along without her, so if I go around, start organizing the house and start rearranging the furniture and throwing things out, she's going to be like, no, this isn't acceptable. I'm in this bed, I can't move, and they're getting things done. And that's just anathema to everything I stood for. So I try to look at things from her standpoint, and I especially find it hard to look at it from the standpoint that every single morning you wake up, you're worse. Because when you're sick, it's like a upside down bell curve, and it's like, yeah, you feel a little crappy, then crappier, and then you're laid up in bed and you're really crappy, and then you don't even want to wake up, and then it's horrible, and then one day you feel a little better, and then the next day you feel a little better. And then finally you're getting around, you've got an appetite, and then actually like a week after you were laid down, you probably never felt better. I've always felt really good after I'm sick. But then I'm thinking, this is just getting worse and worse by the day. I would hate to wake up in the morning to just, it's worse. It's not any better. You always think, I'll be better in the morning. And then sleep is your only solace, because just the waking is either wanting something that can't really want. You have full glasses of water and juice that doesn't get consumed. You have food that's not being consumed. A little bit for sustenance, but I think about that from her standpoint, and it's like, man, that is depressing. Really, really depressing, because I would hate to be laid up. Deep in my heart, I know I'm going to get worse and worse every day. Deep in my heart, I know what's coming. I don't want to admit it, and then I'm seeing the family seemingly get along without me. So you got to kind of think about that when you're with your loved one and you're thinking about, I got a lot of time or more time on my hands because all this other stuff is done. And it almost gets to the point where you have such a routine going that even the day-to-day care is getting easier because you know exactly what you need to do. You know how much someone's going to consume. I wasn't making gourmet lunches anymore, and things were very simple but constant. So don't start doing drastic things when someone's laid up in bed like that because from their standpoint it's like depressing. And I think that's a good rule to go by. And I realize there's reasons for everything. It's, you run into an obstacle that seems insurmountable and you're wondering what you're going to do. And it's like the warfarin when I went to the pharmacy and they had actually told me this is the best pharmacy for the price to go. And I went there and they said $695 per month. And looking at her arm, it's like, well, that's $695 for the next year or so. And if I had just left it at that, I probably would have tried to get the money by hook or crook. I would have borrowed from everybody. I would have gotten advances. I would have gone to all the dollar places and taken as much out as I could, and kids and whatever, and put the change in the machine and change that and come up with $695. And I would come up with the $695 and I would give them the $695. I would get the bottle and I would give him to her thinking things are going to get better now, and she would bleed out the next day, and I'd be like, we just spent $700 for you to take 3 pills and bleed out. So it was very fortuitous that I couldn't get it for $695, and then I went online and found some things and got it for $9 because it was not useful to us anyway. She could never take it again. So you see how things work out? I mean, that's a really good life lesson, that take an obstacle and down the line you'll go, God, I'm glad that happened that way. I mean, a lot of things happen that way. Major life changes. It's like if this hadn't happened, I wouldn't have been over here, and it would have been a big mess if she had gotten sick and I had been working somewhere else farther away. So things happen for a reason. And another depressing thing, this is a happy episode. And you're on your, I know you're on your backs laughing and uproarious at my humor. I don't know, that's even sarcastic. I shouldn't say that because it's, I can just get real acerbic. You get the medicines, you get the remedies, you get the painkillers, and it's like, well, at least we got this. At least we got morphine, which is one of the strongest things you can get. It's very comforting to just be able to go numb it out. Morphine causes constipation. And sometimes constipation lasts 3 days, and when you're like a skeleton, and you're having a hard time with your organs and your basic bodily functions anyway, that becomes distressing, because I've heard of things like septic shock. I don't know what it is, but it just stands to reason to me that if you're constipated for 3 days, that you could go into septic shock when your body is kind of shot. So medicines and painkillers all have side effects that come along. So, we're never really out of the woods. Every time she takes this, she gets this, and then she won't want to take it for a while, and then she's back to being in pain. So it's, a miserable mess. But just realize that those universal laws that come into play, that everyone's connected, because somehow when you really get a deadline, they're under the gun, the right person comes along just at the right time. You're just at the right place to hear something from somebody, or it could be almost anything. But people are all connected, and you'll find that out when you look back on your life. After you've lived most of it, you'll see, yeah, everybody's connected. And I'm even talking strangers that you pass in the street, because it stands to reason if you've lived trillions of lifetimes, then every permutation is possible. So everyone you see on the street, you might have been married to, or they might have been your sister or brother or dog. So I think kind of along those lines all the time. And what kind of note can I leave this on? Because I could talk about this kind of stuff for a while. I didn't even get to what I wanted to talk about the mysteries, but I have nothing dramatic to say, so I'll just leave it at that, and I'll start another episode. So thanks for listening, and I hope it's not too boring. I know it's getting kind of tedious and maybe self-indulgent, but at least for my kids and descendants, I'd like to have this record. Thanks, everybody. I'll see you in the next episode.